Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jai Advaita Chandra, Jai Gaur Bhaktivinoda.
So continuing our reading of Sri Caitanya Charitamrita Madhya-lila, chapter 19, entitled The Lord Instructs Srila Rupa Goswami, text number 233. That's where we are. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, according to yes.
So yeah, we've started hearing about Madhurya or Shringarasa.
Yep.
And just looking back. Yeah, just about last week's ones that yeah, just the exchange, the rasa between Krishna and his devotees just generates an ocean of nectar, an ocean of bliss. And that's confirmed by great scholars, great learned scholars. And then it was saying that 231, how that in this Madhurya Rasa, the all the different qualities of the previous rasas mentioned are all in this rasa, Madhurya Rasa. So everything is combined together.
And the intimacy increases.
Yeah, so the intimacy is increased. Yeah. But the particular one that's added on, mentioned in 232, was offering the body in service. Offering the body in service. So that's what's added more than that's not in the other ones. So they're offering their body in service. And like I gave some examples, like the gopis or Krishna's wives, because there's two categories within Madhurya Rasa. So you got married and unmarried. So example of unmarried is the gopis, and the example of married is the queens in Dwarka. So in Vrindavan, you've got the unmarried Madhurya Rasa, and in Dwarka, you have the married Madhurya Rasa. So inside marriage, 16,108 wives, married, properly married. And then in Vrindavan, it's unmarried. And so in that rasa, they're offering their bodies. So what is that? What's examples of that? Like I mentioned, they would massage the feet, Krishna's feet, and offer him a garland and so many things, and put food in his mouth, and hugging and kissing and all that kind of stuff that happens in that Madhurya Rasa. And so yeah, more intimacy, like you mentioned that, right? So more intimacy. So coming closer. So there's bodily contact there. Bodily contact. However, we would, like to clearly explain that 180 degrees difference between the bodily contact in the material world between boyfriend, girlfriend, or husband and wife, and 180-degree difference between the bodily contact in the spiritual world with Krishna and his girlfriends or his wives. Because why 180-degree difference? Because in the spiritual world, the devotee only is concerned about giving pleasure to Krishna and not about their own pleasure. And Krishna is also not motivated in the relationship to please himself, but he just wants to please the devotees. He just wants to please the devotees. And in the material world, it's opposite to that, because generally in the material world, the man is coming close to the woman because he wants to enjoy his own senses with the woman's body. And the woman is coming closer to the man because she's thinking, I'm going to get pleasure from this man, is going to give me pleasure, like that. So that we call lust. When we want to please our own senses, that's lust. And when we want to please Krishna's senses, that's called prema, or love. So in that way, it's opposite. That's very opposite. But we have that reflection in the material world, that close bodily contact. But yeah, just the desire is different. So the activity might look similar, but completely different in terms of the desire. One is a personal desire, and the other one is no personal desire, just wanting to please Krishna. And even because I explained that even Krishna, not only the devotee doesn't have an interest to please their own senses, and Krishna doesn't also. So I'll give an example of that. Because people say, oh, he's so lusty. Look, he married 16,108 wives. Krishna's very lusty. Some people criticize like that. But they don't have any knowledge. So if you know the pastime about how Krishna married all those women, it was those women that had the desire to marry him, not that he had the desire to marry the woman. Like, for example, there was a big demon named Jarasandha, and Jarasandha had been conquering so many rival kingdoms. And he would kill the king, or imprison the king. Oh, actually, no, I'm talking about a different one. Yeah, so Jarasandha imprisoned the king. But there was another demon named Balmasura, or Narakasura. He's got two different names, Narakasura, Balmasura. So he had conquered these kings and taken the princesses, taken the queens, the princesses, and he had kept them in his fortress, right? So when Krishna, he was a message was sent to Krishna on behalf of the princesses, please rescue us. So they're asking for his help, so he came to help. So he killed Balmasura. He killed Balmasura and released all the women. So there was 16,000 of them. So he told the woman, you can go home now. And they said, we can't go home because we've been away from our husbands, away from our fathers, like that. And they won't have us back, because I've said before how strict it was in Vedic culture. If a woman goes outside the father or husband's house for more than, a night or whatever, then they're not going to have them back. They're unchaste or whatever like that, polluted, contaminated, whatever. So they've been with another man. The woman's been with another man. So they said, well, we can't we can't go back home. So Krishna said, well, what do you want to do? And they all said, well, we're all attached to you. We want to be with you. You be our husband. So he said, okay. So he's just reciprocating with their desire. They were all attached to him. They all surrendered to him. They wanted to have that relationship with him as husband and wife. So he's just reciprocating with their desire. It's not that he ever had any desire, oh, I want 16,000 wives, like that. So that was one group. But before that one group of 16,000, because its total is 16,108. So that was actually 16,100. Yeah, so that was 16,100. But before that, he married 8. But even with those 8, which was one by one by one by one, so Rukmini was the first. But even in all those cases, it was the woman that wanted to have the relationship with Krishna, never that Krishna will say, oh, I like this girl, I'm attracted to her, I want her. No, they all wanted Krishna. Rukmini said in a message to Krishna, when she was going to have an arranged marriage, her brother Rukmi was arranging a marriage to Shishupal, and she didn't like Shishupal at all. She only liked Krishna. So she had heard about Krishna in the palace of her husband when great sages like Narada Muni would come through and glorify Krishna. Like I've been reading about Krishna's qualities, so they would say, you know, Krishna's the most beautiful body and he's the most wealthiest and most this and that. So, and she got attracted from a young age. So she developed a strong determination that I only want to marry Krishna. And she said in that message, if I have to do tapasya, austerities, for hundreds or thousands of lifetimes, I don't care. But I only want to marry you, you know, nobody else. So Krishna realized, you know, how strong desire she had to serve him in that way. So he went and rescued her, you know, and took her out of that, marriage ceremony to Shishupal. And but in every case, it's like that. So, so the devotee just wants to serve Krishna and not please himself, but just want to please Krishna. And Krishna also just wants to please the devotee. So that's real love. You know, what we are hearing about in the spiritual world is that soul to soul connection is pure love. Very different than the material world, where we have, you know, that the boy is attracted to the girl's attracted to the boy, and then as soon as they don't get much enjoyment from that person anymore, then they say, see you later. And I heard Prabhupada talk about that in a lecture recently. And he said the main thing that causes the relationship to break is when there's a lack of enjoyment from sex. When that enjoyment from sex reduces, then they break up. Because that's the main enjoyment in the relationships in the material world is sex. So when the sex pleasure, when they're getting that, then they stay together. And then when that's absent, there's no more pleasure from sex, because that's the main thing that people are enjoying. Then the relationship breaks off. And that's another thing that separates, that in the spiritual world, there's no sex. There's no sex because it's just never mentioned. It's never mentioned because it's not there. Like I said, there's kissing and hugging and all those kind of things. But I mean, in the material world, you need sex to take place because you're not going to get reproduction without it, right? But in the spiritual world, there's no reproduction, right? Because everyone's eternal. You know what I'm saying? If we don't think about that, but in the spiritual world, everyone's eternal. There's no birth. So there's no need for something like sex in the spiritual world because no one takes birth. You know what I'm saying? You don't, in the spiritual world, you don't take birth from the womb of a mother. You don't take birth from the womb of a mother. And you don't need a father to impregnate the woman for a child to come out. That's not necessary. You're eternally there. And in the spiritual world, you have an eternal mother and father, and you're eternally their child. It's hard for us to conceive of. But yeah, you have an eternal mother, an eternal father, and you're their eternal child. But there's never any birth, there's never any death. You know, so where there's no birth, there's also no death. That's why in the spiritual world there's no death, because also no birth. So both sides are absent. There's no old age, no disease. So that's the four main problems in the material world: birth, death, old age, and disease. So none of those things are in the spiritual world. So also there's no need for sex because there's no birth. But so they enjoy in other ways. But they still have genitals. But they're not, it's not like you have to gratify the genitals through sex in the spiritual world.
That's interesting.
So like I said, they still eat in the spiritual world, We talked about that on Thursday, because we were talking about that verse in 9 chapter text 26 about Krishna saying, offer the food to me with love and devotion. So they're still eating the spiritual world, but not because they're hungry. So you have a tongue, you have a mouth, but it's not that you're hungry and you use it for that purpose. It's just for they're not eating to prevent their hunger, and because they're lacking energy, they're eating just for and part of the loving reciprocation, the relationship. Someone wants to offer you food, so you accept that food and you eat it. So you'll see Krishna and his boyfriends eating together, but that's like just a loving exchange, but not because they're hungry. In the same way, you've got genitals there, but they're not used for, they're not necessary for just for sex. That's not necessary. But there are loving relationships, but sex is not necessary. And it's even mentioned there about Vaikuntha. So now we're not looking on Krishna's planet, we're looking on Lakshmi Narayan, all those other planets where Lakshmi Narayan, all the devotees are there. And there, it's mentioned there on those Vaikuntha planets, the devotees are all families. So they're all grihastas, they're all families. So there's many, the husband and wife relationships there, and they're both serving Lakshmi Narayan. But it's mentioned that although the husbands and the wives' bodies are very beautiful, they're very beautiful, much more beautiful than on earth, much more beautiful than on heaven. So handsome and beautiful bodies, but they're never agitated by sex desire. Now, how's that possible? Even though they're so beautiful, that man, that woman is so beautiful, they're not attracted to each other sexually. How is that possible? It's mentioned because both of them are so much more attracted to Narayan. They're both the woman and the man are attracted to Narayan. They just want to serve Narayan. So their desires for pleasure are satisfied in their relationship with Narayan. So those husbands and wives, what are they doing together? They just assisting each other and serving Narayan. So maybe the wife might make a garland, a flower garland, and the husband can offer it to Narayan. Just one example. So they're a team. So they're a team working together to please Lakshmi Narayan, like that. But they're not together to just exploit each other's for enjoyment. So there's no like exploitation there, or trying to gratify yourself from the other person. That's not there, because you're getting unlimited, like we're reading in that verse 229, the exchange of spiritual happiness between Krishna and his devotee, in which Krishna is controlled by his devotee, is compared to an ocean of nectar into which the devotee and Krishna plunge. This is the verdict of learned scholars who appreciate Krishna's opulence. So they're just getting an ocean of pleasure from that. You don't need to get it from anywhere else. So even though you might have a wife and you might have money and so many things, but there's no interest in those things in terms of enjoyment from those things. But you're still having all those things, and everything is getting used in Christian service. Everything is getting used in Christian service. I like to explain this kind of stuff a lot because it can be very misunderstood, and which is very bad for us to think that, Krishna's lusty or anything like that. So it's very important to understand the difference between spiritual love and what we call material love.
Yeah. Mm.
Do you want to say
Yeah,
anything about that? Does that make sense or anything?
it's like in spiritual world they've got something else which gives them more happiness than all the physical happiness we are talking about. So if you get something which you get more pleasure, you will go for that rather than something below it, right? If you're
Yes.
getting something real happiness, so you'll go for that, and that basically similar here, but we are looking at material form, um, and the system which God has created to procreate, basically, to, you know, yeah. So I think, yeah, I mean, once you get something very interesting, then the things, go down. You replace it with, higher happiness rather than bliss or whatever. So
yeah,
probably in spiritual world, that's not the topmost, you know, happiness. In material world, that's the topmost,
yeah,
I think. Yeah, and then
yes,
probably that's so. It's very. I mean, as you said, it's very difficult to perceive that kind of understanding because we are in material world. We are so conditioned. We think like that, but ultimately, everyone is looking for happiness. If I get something more happiness, no, I'll go for it. Right? So
yeah,
that makes sense. I mean, yeah, in terms
mm,
of since we are built like that, we look at physical contact or something like that. But ultimately, you're looking for happiness, and if you get something happiness without all that,
yeah,
that's what. Why not?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Now I was
Even
thinking, yeah,
even in the material world, there was one great devotee going back in time in South India named King Kulashekar. King Kulashekar. Oh no, it was another king. No, he was one, but this example I'm going to tell you is from another one named Yamunacharya. So Yamunacharya, before he became known as Yamunacharya, he was a king in South India, one province of South India, and as a king would have before it was polygamy, so many wives. The kings,
mm,
especially previously in Vedic culture, would have many wives. Um, because they are rich, they can afford to have many wives, whereas other people can't. And so, but then he became a devotee. He became a devotee, and when he became a devotee, one verse that he wrote said, "Anytime I think of sex life, my my lips curl in distaste, and I spit at the thought. I spit at the thought."
I think I've read that
And
somewhere in the.
yeah, yeah.
It's in the Bhagavad Gita and the purport.
And one purport maybe in Bhagavad Gita
Yeah.
too. But when Prabhupada talks about it in lectures, he says it in the way that he said, I spite at it. Because Prabhupada, instead of saying spit, he says spite. So he says I would spite on it. But yeah, he's meaning spit.
But
But
spite is also an interesting word because spite means you don't like it.
yeah, which is also
Yeah.
interesting, what Jaini's pointing out, that spite also means you don't like it, just like the word spit, right? So, but that's not meaning that we spit at women or anything. But what it's saying is we're spitting at the thought. So just that thought of enjoying through sex for an advanced devotee, then it's just not desirable at all. No attraction for that at all. So what does that mean? Like what you say, obviously they must be enjoying something on a higher level because generally sex life is seen as the highest level of enjoyment in the material world. But what a devotee is experiencing is something far, far higher that he can put the sex pleasure as down to a very low thing for him. Means
Mm.
how much higher enjoyment they must be experiencing, to be able to be so disgusted or disinterested in sex life. So that's just indicating how much enjoyment the devotee is getting from that relationship with Krishna, like that. And of course, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that I am sex life. He says in one place, I am sex life according to religious principles. So it's not necessary that sex life is bad in the material world either, but it should be according to religious principles. So what is sex life according to religious principles? And that is to propagate children. So, of course, as every other species does, animals and birds and fish and that, when the male and female come together, they produce something. Only in modern human society have we come up with some different idea about what sex is about, that we come together, male and female, and we don't produce children. But that's not natural, and that's obvious, right? Because naturally, that's what that activity is for. The male and female come together and reproduce. In every other species, that's what happens. Only a human being has brought it to the point where sex is just for enjoyment without the producing anything. And why has nature provided so much enjoyment in that activity of sex? Prabhupada explains there's a pleasure coating on the genitals of the man and woman. So why has nature put that pleasure coating on the genitals? That is to give us an impetus to reproduce. Because if there was no pleasure in the activity of sex, who's going to reproduce? Because actually bringing up children can be quite a painful exercise, in terms of, you have to work so hard to maintain the children. And especially when they're very young, there might be a lot of difficulties, and they're crying at night, and, you don't get to sleep. And, there's so many difficulties. Of course, we all know there's a pleasure in seeing them grow up and be happy and successful and do well at school and blah, blah, blah. But also, we all know there's a lot of difficulties too. And if there wasn't any pleasure in the activity of sex, there would be a lot less people that would want to reproduce. So therefore, nature has made it such a pleasurable activity to encourage us to reproduce. But now what we've done as a civilized human society is we're trying to get rid of the reproducing. And the worst way we've done that is through contraceptive devices, in terms of, what do they call them? What are those pills? Contraceptive pills, like that. So we'd actually kill the child. That is very sinful. That because when the male, through the semen of the male, the soul is there. So the soul is in the semen of the male, and that goes into the woman's ovary or whatever. And then it starts to, and when it has the right conditions for a body to develop, then the body will grow. It means the soul is there. As soon as something's growing, that immediately tells you there's a soul there. Like, some people are so crazy to say that there's no life there until basically the child pops out. But that's a load of rubbish. As soon as it starts growing, from day one, there's a soul there. There's life there. Life, what life means, what does life mean to say there's life in something, not life in something else? So life, when you say there's life, that means there's a soul there. Because matter on its own has no life. If you say something has life, and what does it mean to say it's got life? So there's 6 transformations. Something that takes birth, it grows, it maintains for some time, it reproduces, it dwindles and dies. So those are 6 transformations, and that we know, if we're seeing those transformations, that there must be a soul there, because without a soul being present within that matter, that can't go through those 6 different changes. So the soul has come in to that particular place, and then if you go and kill it through an operation or a pill or whatever like that, that's very sinful. And Prabhupada explains it in a very interesting way, that if I try to enter my house and you prevent me, what is that? Is that good? No, that's sinful. If you try to enter your house and someone blocks you from entering the house, so the soul has entered into that womb, and then you stop it, you block it. then it can't go there. So then, I mean, you can't kill the soul, but you just stopped it going in there. So what's going to happen? That soul has to find another place to go. So you slowed down its evolution in terms of taking birth, and then it, slowly it gets the human species and can get spiritual education and eventually mukti, go back to Godhead, right? So you slowing down the process of that soul to get moksha, then there's going to be a reaction for that. That's sinful. You've stopped that soul entering its house like that. So yeah, modern human society is really going off track, and that's one example. How we don't see the purpose of sex as reproduction. It's just for personal enjoyment, and we see actually the child as an obstacle for our enjoyment. Then you just kill it, So it's very selfish like that. And I mean, we've talked about Vatsalya Ras. What's the mood of Vatsalya Ras? Is we what did we read? It's called. They had the word for it.
Palaka
Palya,
means
Palaka and
maintenance.
Palya, Palaka and Palya. So the child is Palaka, is needing protection, and the parent is Palya, giving protection. So we're in that mood of mother and father, you should be giving protection. This is the opposite of what we're talking about. You're actually killing the child, which needs to be protected, and you killed it. So modern humans have become very dysfunctional. And even what kind of Vatsalya Ras is that? We're killing the children just because, oh, he's going to interfere with my pleasure, so let me kill him. This is very low class kind of society. And yeah, and this is what's going to be the result of all these kind of horrible activities is suffering. And we see that a lot, and the scriptures explain how will that suffering manifest. Well, one is war, and we see a lot of war. Diseases like cancer nowadays, and the statistics are, in everyone's life, it's nearly at some point in everyone's life going to get cancer, and it's nearly at that point. It went up from 10% of the people in their life they might get cancer, 20%, 30%, 40, 50, 68, 80. Now it's like 1 in 2, 1 in 2, and soon they reckon nearly everyone at some point in their life is going to get some kind of cancer. So why is this all happening? These are all reactions of sinful activities, like killing animals is a very big one, and like killing the child in the womb, that's another one. So all these kind of things, the reaction for all these things, the karma has got to go somewhere. Car accidents, so many things, that we have to suffer. It's very unfortunate, but all this can be avoided if we have this knowledge. So it's not that we're against sex, but like Krishna's saying, I am sex according to religious principles. So ideally, that sex is for producing children, and that doesn't stop there. Then we want to bring up the children, educate the children to be servants of God. To be servants of God, because Prabhupada explained that. What's the point of bringing up children like cats and dogs? It means just like keep them at an animal kind of level, and that's another thing. Even the parents that don't kill the children, but they bring up the children like cats and dogs. What does that mean? It's not, it sounds very bad, but just mean, just for the normal kind of things that animals do: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Aha, nidram, maituni bayam. It means no religious part to the life, no spiritual part to the life. The children don't have any spiritual education. It's just everything is for the body. So basically, having children like cats and dogs means it's all just they're educated only for bodily things. You know what I mean, right? So it's all bodily kind of their education and everything, like the way I was brought up. We got to get educated. Why? so that we can get a job. Why? To get money. Why? So you can buy food and pay for the rent and for the body, you know? So that's all that's cats and dogs, you know? So, but yeah, then you realize, wow, it's a big responsibility. You know, and it's not easy. And I experienced that because like my first marriage broke up, and then I had two children, and then I couldn't fulfill my responsibility to educate them, you know, spiritually beyond the point that where they left me. So, I mean, Krishna has seemed to help to them to do pretty well. But yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy. It's not easy, but at least we should go into that relationship trying to do that. You know, that should be our desire. You know, we never really know what the result's going to be, isn't it? We do an activity, but you never know what the outcome is going to be. Sometime you'll be successful, sometime you'll fail. Sometime you'll make profit, and sometime you'll make loss. So that's just the way the material world is also set up. And that's why we call it the world of dualities. You'll see that word dvandva. Dvandva means dualities. It's mentioned quite a few times in the Bhagavad Gita. So, but even like Krishna said to Arjuna, if you go and fight, you know, I want you to fight, but whether you win or lose, that doesn't matter. That's not up to you. I'm controlling that one. You know, I'm controlling that one. That you just have to do your duty, you know, to fight. But the outcome, you know, like he wins or he loses, that's up to Krishna. It's not up to us. But we have to try our best, of course. And you know, you do your duty, your dharma, the best you can. But the result, the outcome, you never know. So, but yeah, in Kali Yuga especially, you know, it's very difficult. Our duties. There's a lot of obstacles there, a lot of obstacles, but still, you know, we try. Mm.
Yeah, I think 90% of it is ignorance. I mean, if you know, I mean, and the society is like that, you know, you don't know the real purpose of living, then you're gonna just follow others. That
Mm.
was is happening. I think it's more of a knowledge and basically realizing that, you know, it's not, yeah, if it's basically ignorance. I think if you don't know the rules, like if you're in New South Wales or Australia, there are rules. If you don't
Mm.
go according to those rules or traffic rules, you're going to get an accident. And that's what is happening. So
Mm.
nobody knows that, you know, physically somebody doesn't have to be there. There's God's law automatically, you know. Suffering is basically that. I mean, if you go against their laws, you're going to suffer. And if you don't
Mm.
ask questions, keep following others, then so it's
Mm.
more of a knowledge. It's ignorance which is causing this, and the
Exactly.
difficulty is
Yeah.
when the child is born, he is basically put into ignorance. He's never taught right thing, and that's where Prabhupada is trying
Mm.
to teach that to people.
Yeah.
God conscious
Yeah.
children means you know the rules, nature's law or God's law.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
is right? Why I'm suffering? I'm here. All
Yeah.
this. It's more
Yeah.
ignorance, I guess. And culture as
Yeah.
well is not good, I guess.
Yeah.
And the other question I wanted to ask is, we talked about 16,100 wives, and
108.
then they
Yeah.
were abandoned
Oh, yeah.
there. So the women themselves said that we can't go back home. I mean, that's what is the reason behind that? I mean, why that kind of a mentality was created? Is it that society remains more, you know, if say a woman goes into
Oh, I
that
see.
society,
Okay. Okay.
yeah, and that
Yeah. So
creates so
what you're asking, why is that rule there that if a woman leaves the home
yeah,
of the
yeah,
protector,
yeah,
they can't go back? Well, I'll tell you that but a lot of it is to do with the psychology of the woman. That this is a special case because they were kidnapped. They didn't go of their own and you know their own desire. They didn't leave home. But like especially in terms of if a woman becomes attracted to another man, right? If a woman becomes attracted to another man other than her husband, right, then that means that attraction is very strong. That attraction is
think
very strong. And then even that man they're attracted to, even for some reason, if that would taken away from that man they're attracted to, they're never going to be able to fully give them their heart and soul to another man. You know what I'm saying? So it's the psychology. The woman becomes attracted to some man. Now, they're never going to be able to fully devote themselves in another relationship. So that's why they emphasize the woman being chaste. If the woman is chaste, then always her heart and her energy and everything will be fully supporting that man and bringing up the children and everything like that. But if a woman is unchaste and goes off to other men, whatever, then she's never going to be any good. She's never going to be able to, because even though she might be, her body is with her legitimate husband, but her heart is with her lover. You know what I'm saying?
She's not loyal, is
Not
what.
Johnny's saying not loyal. But yeah, that's what's emphasized, that's why they try to keep the woman chaste. Just stick to that one man. Because as soon as her body is with someone she doesn't really like, but her heart is with someone else, then she's not going to be able to fully commit herself, dedicate herself in that, relationship. So they try to stop that from happening. That, like in all these strict rules, that if you leave home, you can't come back. So they want to try to avoid that chastity of the woman getting broken.
and I think
So even like leaving the fathers, even forget about they're not even married yet. So even it's strict like that. If they leave the father's home, they can't come back. So why is that? Because, like I said, if they go off and find a boyfriend, and their heart will be attracted there, because it's also mentioned the first man to satisfy the woman in sex, she cannot forget that man. She cannot forget that man. So say she's unmarried girl with the father, and then she leaves the father and has sex with one boy. So that was the first boy to satisfy her. So even that relationship gets broken for whatever reason, and she comes back to her father, and she might get married or whatever later on, but she'll never be able to be as 100% involved in that relationship, committed, dedicated, like that, loyal to that relationship. She won't be able to, because part of her heart is still in that first boy, like that. So the Vedic culture is strict. You can't leave the father's house, until you find a proper husband. And then hopefully that husband will be the first person also that satisfies her in sex. And then she'll stick to that man like that. And so when they say, the woman becomes polluted, so it's not just necessarily physically polluted by having another man, have sex with her, but it's, polluted in the consciousness. So the consciousness gets polluted. That means her mind will be more fickle. Her mind will be more chanchala, and attracted from one man to another man like that. So that quality of chastity in a woman is very carefully protected in Vedic culture. They want to make sure. So therefore it seems like a very severe punishment for a woman that's outside of that. This is a unusual scenario that the woman was forcibly taken away from her father's house, her husband's house. So you'd think in those circumstances that maybe you could, not apply
Yeah.
such severe punishment because
Yeah,
they
yeah.
didn't do it
So,
on purpose.
like yes, yeah. I mean it's like I think what I think I'm speculating here again. I mean, I think it's more like you creating a culture. And I think Prabhupada said something. What you do is if a woman is attracted to person outside your marriage, you're basically creating a culture. You know, if one sheep does something and then the other follow it. So you don't want to do that. And result of that, I think he gave an example of if you have a kids with somebody else, and then they don't have any father and all those. What you're creating is society where there's no father, no mother, there's no culture. The rules are not there. So what you're creating, you're destroying the society, and you're setting an example where you are going, okay, she goes, or this man goes somewhere else and did have kids. This man has them that many kids, or this with this girl.
Yeah,
So it's like you are creating a society which is not going to be God conscious. It will be difficult for them to actually be God
yeah,
conscious because
yeah,
you're going
yeah.
against the laws, and you don't want to create that kind of a culture. So you
That's
need to
right.
put
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
So I mean, from that
And,
perspective, I
and
look at
having that first class mother, first class woman, chased to her husband, then you get a first class mother, then you get first class children, and then you get liberated, children. So that's the whole culture, is to bring us towards liberation. Whereas now we have a society where women go wherever they want with as many men as they want, and they don't stick to any particular men. They go from one to the next. There's divorces. Although, first of all, now a lot of them don't even bother getting married. And even the few that do get married, that doesn't last. So, and then all the children, also their minds are in chaos. That's called Vana Sankara, which is mentioned in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, unwanted children. That's very bad in society, where you have children that are like unwanted children. So, or they might not even know who their parents are, or all kind of confused things. And that creates real anarchy and chaos in society. And no wonder why you have so many criminals and things, because the children were brought up, they were never loved properly by their parents and everything, and then they grow up feeling so angry and confused and everything like that. And so it's not progressive at all. Like modern society, we can see what the results are. Now women are given freedom. Women have complete freedom, but see, where has it got society? That are the women happy? No, they're not happy. They're free, but they're not necessarily happy. Now we have so many women, they don't have a husband. They might have children, but they don't have a husband. Or women that don't have a husband, they don't have children. So like that. So obviously they're not happy, but they're free, and also, the man doesn't have a proper wife or blah, blah, blah. So we have children that don't have parents. So we have a lot of very unhappy people, individuals in society. So obviously something we're doing is not right. We had that Vedic saying, Phalena Parichate, you judge a process by the results. So we can see by the results we're getting in modern society, the process is not good. Somewhere our process has gone wrong. And you look at Vedic culture, follow that process, and you get good results. You get children like Arjuna and Yudhisthira. You get brilliant children, really first class. They're all such first class citizens. And
and that's
yeah,
why I think
so
yeah,
yep,
and I think there's one regulatory principle: illicit sex. I mean, that's probably that's one of the Prabhupada's illicit sex. Sex outside marriage. That's one of the things
yep.
you should be doing, right? That's one of the.
Mm.
I mean, that's one of the things why so much emphasis on that is that you don't produce people, and you don't set a norm. If your father is separated or mother is separated or your father is going to somebody else, then what kids will observe and they will follow, and that's what has happened in the society, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I mean, yeah, I mean, but just banning women and not men, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, but that's I mean, I understand the purpose behind it. Yeah,
No,
makes
see, I
sense.
mean, the principle for women was to be chaste, And the principle for the man was to control the senses. You see? So the man is trained as a brahmachari to control the senses, to not have sex, or at least wait till you get a proper wife, and then stay with that wife. So that's the first, because brahmachari student life basically means no sex. So you're trained to control that sex desire from a young age. Brahmachari. Brahmachari means complete celibacy, no sex. Brahmachari is not allowed sex. Only grihastha can have sex. And then vanaprastha, also no sex. And then sannyasi, of course, no sex. So only one ashram is sex allowed. The other three ashram, no sex. Not brahmachari, not vanaprastha, not sannyas. Only grihastha can have sex. Like that. But that training is given right in the beginning of life in brahmachari, from 5 years to 20, 25 years, is trained how to live without sex. And then eventually that choice is given. Do you want to become a grihastha? And then they can, or otherwise they'll continue and become a sannyasi, like that. So yeah. It's not just a lot of rules were given to the women. No, the men has actually more education is given to the boys, how to control the senses and everything like that. And the girl would be trained by her mother. So her guru is like, she doesn't go to Gurukul. The girl traditionally wouldn't go to Gurukul. She is getting taught by her mother how to be a chaste wife, how to be a good mother. So she will be taught by her mother how to cook, how to do sewing, how to do cleaning, how to serve the husband, all the things, really pucker, everything really nicely done like that. All the household, because she's in charge of all the household stuff. So that would be traditionally done like that. Now, of course, modern society, women go out and do everything, and they're in all workforce and like that. But the downside of that is, by taking the woman outside of the household and putting her in all the workforce and giving her equal opportunities and all jobs and everything, has actually caused this problem that they get exploited by men. So when they were at home, when the woman was kept home, they were protected there. But as soon as you let the woman go out of the home and go out into the workforce and that, then they get exploited by men, And Prabhupada actually said that this movement of women's equality, equal rights, women's equality, this movement was started by men, not by women. It was started by men because they want these lusty men, the lusty men want the woman to come out of the house so that they can exploit them. So in Vedic culture, very carefully, the women were protected from these low-class men. There's always going to be some low-class men that want to exploit the woman. So in Vedic culture, they're very careful to protect. And we see that was one of the big things with the Ramayana, right? What was one of the big parts of the Ramayana? Where as soon as Sita was unprotected, when she was away from Ram and Lakshman, immediately Ravana, low class, immediately Ravana came and took her away, right? And then how much pain and suffering Ram had to go through to try to get his wife back. And this is another example of a woman getting kidnapped. So just like Balmasura, a low-class guy, he kidnapped all these women. So you get Ravana, he kidnapped. As soon as the woman was not protected by husband or father, immediately some low-class scum will just exploit. So that was happened. Ramayana was 2 million years ago. And with these 16,000 wives and Balmasura was 5,000 years ago. And it's happening the same thing today. Same thing is happening today. So this is always there in the material world. You'll get some lusty man As soon as he sets his sights on a beautiful woman, he's going to try to grab her, 100%. He's going to try to get her. So in the Vedic culture, they carefully keep the woman protected from these. So it's not really a criticism of the woman, but it's a criticism of the man. And the way to deal with that is you have to keep the woman out of his sight. So they would keep the woman carefully safe from these low class kind of people. So a very intelligent design, the whole society, very carefully designed. Now we look at that and we criticize. Oh, see how they're, suppressing the woman and not giving them rights and all this blah, blah, blah. But they don't understand. Now women, like I said, have complete freedom. But what's the result? They're just suffering big time suffering. A woman might have 10 abortions or 50 or 100, whatever. It should become a murderer. Every woman is trained to become a murderer. They're going to, Prabhupada said what the result will be, that those persons that do that, kill the child in the womb, they will be placed in a womb of some woman and be killed, and be put in another one and be killed, and put in another one and killed, put in another one and killed. So then that will be the karma, that they will be put in that same situation. Now I am killing that child in the womb. Next time I will be that child in the womb and killed. So what is the society doing? It's just such a horrible society. But we criticize the Vedic one. Oh, they're not, they're keeping the wife, in the home or whatever. But yeah, they were happy. They were so happy, so peaceful, so happy, everything. The real happiness for a woman is to have a very loving, protective, husband and wonderful children. And a nice house and nice sari and clothes and jewelry and everything. So it said that in Vedic culture, that is the saying that is the satisfaction for a woman. The satisfaction for happiness for a woman is to have a good husband, nice children, and then nice facilities, nice house, nice clothing, jewelry, and like that. Nice food, very important also. Nice food. Is that correct? Nice food. Talking to Gianty. Yeah, well, these are the things that make us happy.
The jewelry.
Gianty's saying, "Where is the sari? Where is the jewelry?" She's got too many saris and jewelry. She doesn't even wear them all.
True, that's true.
She's agreeing is true. But yeah, so yeah, different way of seeing things. Different way of seeing things. But yeah, it's very, very sad to see the results of modern society. The women are all exploited, and their hearts are broken.
Actually, the interesting thing is we see it as women are being exploited, but the women are thinking, oh, they're liberated. It's called women's lib, no?
Yeah, it's called women's lib.
Yeah.
Women's liberation, yeah.
So they are thinking, oh, they're free. They can do anything. They're not, but actually they don't see they're actually put in such a difficult situation. They're not understanding that. Many of them, actually, even many devotee women also don't understand this.
Yeah.
They are arguing for, freedom but what is freedom? So they haven't actually understood the essence of that spiritual understanding they've not got. That's why they are arguing like that, It's quite sad.
They get freedom from the father, freedom from the husband, but then they have to surrender to the government and take some benefit from the government. Then they have to go out and work. Before they didn't have to work. And then they have to go out and work for 8 hours a day, whatever. Where's the freedom? It's just suffering. It's before they had such a good life. They didn't have to work, just can be at home and be with the kids and cook and have nice food and everything. And now they
It
have,
can be seen as a life of drudgery. That's been trained that way. Like,
see,
that's how the children have been brought up.
Mm.
So they are seeing it as, oh, just being at home and doing things like that is a drudgery.
well, see, now it is because now they don't have many children. Because isn't it now in the city you can't afford to have more than one or two kids, right? Most
Yeah.
people. If you only have, one kid or two kids, I agree that's not going to be very good for the mother. But previously they have like, 10 kids or whatever. And then she's kept busy and she's not going to get bored. Right now, a woman will get bored, right? Now, a woman will get bored at home. The husband's out the whole day. There's only got one kid. And then when the one kid goes to school, then there's nothing to do, right? He's going to get bored. But previously, there's always lots happening. Like she told me about her grandmother. There was how many in the house? And an extended family, right? So then you've got
10 children, I think.
10 children, plus you've got all the cousins and nephews and that coming around, the uncles and aunties. The house was always a hive of activity, and there's so many things going on. It's never boring. It's always things to do and,
But
very
the
dynamic. And
mentality was also like that, no, at that time. That they were that was well understood that that's how they are living. But then the somehow, somewhere, I don't know how it started, but
Hmm.
somehow the women started, like the girl child was like, oh, we have to send a child to school. All that began. And then once that began, oh, girls can also become engineers, they can become doctors.
Hmm.
So then obviously if they've been trained that way, then and then you say no, you sit at home.
Hmm.
Who's going to like that?
Yeah.
So then the whole mentality changed in India, I'm telling. Because then what would happen is the girl has been educated in this. Many times she's more educated than the boy.
Yeah.
And then they got married. But the boy is then expecting that she'll sit at home and just cook and clean. It's not going to happen.
It's not going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all a mess. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, now that, saying, well, what do you mean? You mean the girl doesn't even go to school? She just gets trained by her mum? That's crazy. But now we see, and the statistics are, most girls have already had sex by the time they're like 15 in a modern society, right? By the time they're 15 or 16 in the West, and I'm not sure about India, but in the West, most girls, even boys, girls, most of them have already had sex by the time they're in their mid-teens. So, strict, religious family might be different, but just general society. So we can see, just even there's a problem with sending the girl to school, because even there she might lose her chastity. And then, like I said, her mind will be fixed on that first boy that satisfied her. And then later on, she's going to have a trouble in her relationship if she gets married or whatever. Then it's going to make it difficult for her to be fully devoted to that husband later on, because someone, her virginity was taken away when she was 15 at school or whatever like that. So there's pros and cons, but definitely I think there's a lot more positive side about the Veda culture and a lot more negative side about the modern culture. But as to how would we bring that Veda culture back, that is very difficult. That's very difficult because we've gone so far away from it. How to bring it back? Yeah, that's very difficult. So,
And even talking about money, right? Prabhupada's talking about how everybody's gone away from gold and silver. So you're just having paper currency, and which is completely useless. So then the devotees are asking, how do we change it? How do we bring it back? So Prabhupada's saying, you can't. There's no point, because it's just gone so far ahead. and the society is corrupted so badly, you can't change it.
Mm.
He said, best thing is to make everybody chant Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
So focus on just getting people to chant Hare Krishna.
Mm.
And, somewhere things will become better. At least they'll all go back to Godhead,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's the same thing even with this, you can't really change it that much.
Mm. It's like today we gave prasadam to about 40 people that never had prasadam before. Yeah. And they're all like hunters and really, people that would never ordinarily get prasadam. So we felt very happy that we could give them prasadam today. Yeah, so just give out the mercy. Hey, let's read the verse. Let's read a verse from here. Because you got 2 weeks off, so we'll go a bit further today. Okay, so this is 233. Akashari guna yena para bhute eka doi tina chari krame pancha prativiti.
Akashadi gunayena para bhute ekaditi vichari krama pancha prativite. All the material qualities evolve one after another in material world, beginning from ether. By gradual evolution, first one quality develops, then two qualities develop, then three and four, until all five qualities are found in earth.
Do you know what this means?
I can't relate it to the previous verse. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. So this is why we need a guru to explain things that we don't understand. I mean, it's good to have scriptures, but you always, when you read scriptures, there's always going to be some things that I just don't get this. Yeah. And then you need someone to explain it to you. So what this means is talking about the 5 material elements. Ether means space. So it's starting with space. That's the most finest, going to the most gross. So from space, then a little bit more grosser than space is air. And a little bit more grosser than air is fire. Then more grosser, water. Then final, the most grossest is earth, right? So that's bhumi, earth. Apa is water. Anala, fire. Vayu, air, and then akash. So what is it saying here? You're adding one quality to each one. So what does that mean? So from space to air, what quality are you adding? Touch. You can touch the air. You can't touch space. But that air has the quality of touch. Now we're going from air to fire. What quality are you adding? Form. You can see fire. You can touch fire and you can see fire. So it has form. So you've got touch and form and fire. There was only touch in air, but now you've gone from touch and form with fire. And then if you move to water, what are you getting? You've got touch, form, and taste. You can taste it. Whereas fire, you can't taste it. Air, you can't taste it. But water, you can taste it. So then if you go from water to earth, then you can touch it, you can see it, you can taste it, and you can smell it. Smell. So that has all the qualities in earth.
So that smell fire.
No, you can't smell fire. So this is an analogy given to these rasas. Yep. So when you're going from Shanta rasa to Madhurya rasa, each one you're adding
Adding, yeah.
Another quality. You've got the previous qualities are there, but you're adding one more. So like this saying with this Madhurya Ras, then you've got all the qualities amalgamated. So Prabhupada's used the word amalgamated. So everything's all merged together. Everything's all packed up together. So you've got the qualities of Shantaras, attachment to God, detachment from sense gratification. Then you've got Dasyaras, the attitude of service. Then you've got service and friendship, more intimate. Then you've got service with protection there of the Vatsalya. Now we've got service with the body, even more intimate and with the body. So you're just adding on to all the previous plus more. So it's a really good analogy. How each element is adding on another quality. So same with the rasas, you're adding on another quality to each rasa you go forward.
Said service with the body for Madhurya.
That's Madhurya. That's what's added, is service with the body, using your body in service.
So then what we are doing, we are cooking and cleaning for Krishna. That's like you're using a body, right? But that's not the same.
No, it means intimate relationship with the body.
Yeah.
So it's basically you're getting more qualities up as you go up, is it? That's what the point is. I mean, what's the comparison? Why we are comparing these two things? I mean, okay, I understand that as we go up, you have all the qualities, the previous qualities you had.
Yeah.
But what is of giving example? Is there a generic rule behind it, or it's?
Well, let's you read the following verse 2, 3, 4.
Let's read it then. Similarly, on the platform of conjugal love, all the feelings of devotee are amalgamated. Okay, intensified in. So it's just giving an analogy.
Look at that. That's the answer here. Ashvada adikye. Kare chamatkara. So the intensified taste is certainly wonderful. So yeah, it's this wonderful, intense, just so much flavor. So much flavor. Just like the earth. Earth has taste. Is this flavor. Like Prabhupada's interesting how he explains it. You smell a flower like a rose, right? Where did that smell come from?
From earth,
From the earth. Comes from the earth.
Yeah, everything.
And you got an apple or a mango. Where did that apple or mango flavor come from? From the earth. So it's coming from the same earth, but different flavors. Like apple has a different flavor than a mango, but both came from the same earth. But you got so much flavors coming from the earth. So same with the Madhurya Ras, so much flavor. Wow. So much flavors. There's a flavor of protection, a flavor of friendship, a flavor of service, and a flavor of like just intimate bodily connections. There's just so much just rasa. Rasa means there's such a just taste that's so satisfying, so relishable. Chamatkara, wonderful tastes like that. There's so much ecstasy. So much ecstasy. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. And like the saying goes, variety is the spice of life, variety is the mother of enjoyment. So the more variety you're adding of these different tastes, then the more enjoyable. And we've talked about it before. If you have a plate of rice, I mean, that's okay, it'll fill your stomach. But if you add dal to it, that's more tasty. Then if you put your dahi beside it, that's even better. Then if you add papadum, it's even better. Then add your bhajia, fried pakora, it's even better. Then add, your puri, and then you add your, palak, and, then you add your payasam, and, so the more variety you add, then it becomes more enjoyable, just the variety.
No, you're just giving an analogy if people don't have understood what previously said. Before that, whatever conjugal love. So he's giving more understandable example that, okay, it's similar. Yeah, okay.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Mm.
Mm. Okay.
Mm. So yeah, you're going to be having a lot more variety too over the next couple of weeks. That's good. Going different places and getting closer with the kids, spending more
Yeah.
time with your wife and kids. That's great. That's
Are we
nice.
still going to
Yeah.
have a class?
No, no,
We won't.
no. Stay, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Hope you guys have good time as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much. And I'll
Pleasure.
see you in 2 weeks' time, I guess.
Yeah,
Thank you.
sounds good.
Have a lovely trip.
Yeah, you have a lovely time.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you very
really
much.
nice. Okay.
Yeah. Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Talking of bhajia, you said bhajia.